Hi, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photography talks. Today I'm going to talk about a book. It's called Against the Odds by Martin Sandler. And I picked this up at an antique outdoor flea market in New Jersey. I always stop at it when I'm in New Jersey because it's such a great one. It's called the Golden Nugget. If you can get, and you're in New Jersey, you can get to it. It's every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I picked this up because this is a wonderful book about women photographers in the first 100 years of photography. And I love to find books, but I always can't afford to go to a bookstore and pay what they charge because they're trying to make a profit. They're sourcing it and they have to pay rent. This was at an outdoor flea market and all the books on his table were $2 to $5. And it was fun to see. He had a lot of photography books, and it was fun to find something that I said, you know, I would like to add that to my collection. It's a nice hardcover book. It has nice photographs of, photographs by women for the first 100 years of photography, which I don't think it was all that uncommon for women photographers back then to have a name. You have the Diane Arbises, you have Margaret Burke White. There were names back then that, were photographers and they were known, but now sometimes, besides Annie Leibovitz, it's not like the tip of my tongue how many women photographers there are compared to the men photographers out there. But there always have been. And I like those kinds of successes where you go, if you can go to an antique market and you find books, especially in a big pile, books in a pile sell for less than books on a shelf in a store. And this outdoor flea market was perfect for that because the guy had a lot of books of a lot of kinds of art type things. And so photography was in with them. And I love it. And I found a book for very little money and it adds to my collection of photography books and photographers that I will discover because maybe I didn't know about them. And it gives me a new way to connect with other photographers and see new work. Because I really have very little interest in reading about equipment reviews as opposed to photographers' lives. I have very little interest in talking and reading about how a Rolleiflex works, or I talk about some of that in a specific review that I'll do of a camera, but when it comes down to the meat of what we do, work matters, not cameras. And seeing other people's work and seeing when did they point that camera at that place and at what moment did they shoot that frame and why? I can often look at a photograph in a gallery, whether it's a real gallery or whether it's online or a book, and I can say, this is what made that photograph. There are these elements, but that one thing there is what made it, that made it a little bit better. And I can find often what that is because it jumps out at me in a sense that there is something special about the photographs, the fact that they're known and they're famous photographers, but there's one element usually that will come together that makes you say, and they got that. And you have to look at photographers' works to see it. You have to get used to seeing other work and looking at it for what is it that puts it over that edge of greatness? What is it that takes it to that next level? And I try to do that, and I use it whether I'm looking at books or galleries. I just like to examine photographs and think about, there's a photographer sitting at that place in that moment making that photograph. And it's an interesting thing because in a sense, when you're looking at that book or that photograph, you're behind that photographer looking over their shoulder, seeing what they see. And it's important to look at work of photography. So always be exploring new photographers wherever you can find them. And books are a great way to introduce yourself to some new photographers. That's what I do, and I highly recommend it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk some more. And the Patreon if you can support. Thanks again.